Hi, this is Dr. Eddie Morgan over at Clovis East High School. Let's get started with our homework help tonight. We're looking at worksheet 4.3a. Remember, every problem on the homework help mirrors one of the problems on your homework. So if you're having struggle with a particular homework problem, fast forward to that problem here and it should give you the help that you need. Problem 1 asks us to solve the system of equations by elimination. Remember, we're always looking to try to line up one variable that has coefficients plus and minus so they will be eliminated. This happens to be a baby bear problem is what I call it, because if you notice the 3x and the 3y and the negative 3y, notice that they're already set up for us. So all we have to do is add these two equations together. So 3x and 4x is 7x. This cancels out. Minus 3y plus 3y is 0. That's the elimination we're looking at. So we get 7x equals 21. Now we'll solve that. Undo 7 times x by dividing by 7. That gives us 1x. Divide the other side by 7. And we find out that x equals 3, and we're halfway there. Now we need to plug this back into one of these. So let's take the first equation. 3x. So I'll put 3 times 3 minus 3y equals 0. So let's 9 minus 3y equals 0. Undo the plus 9 by subtracting 9 from both sides. We get minus 3y equals minus 9. Now we undo the multiplication with division. Divide by minus 3. That goes to 1. A negative divided by negative is positive. So we get 3. So our answer here is 3, 3. And let's just check it out to make sure that we got it right by putting them into the other equation. 4 times 3 plus 3 times 3. That gives us 12 plus 9, and sure enough, that adds up to 21. So we know this is the correct answer. All right, in our second equation, you notice we have two equations. Again, we're looking for one of the variables that would be easy, see if they have a plus or a minus the same number, and we don't see anything here. But we do see a plus and a minus here on the q's. Plus q minus 3q. So we realize all we need to do here to get these to be opposites is to take this equation here and multiply it by 3, everything. Okay? So we end up here with 3 times 3 is 9p plus 3q equals 21. Now make sure you distribute to everything. Sometimes students will maybe do this side and forget that one there. And now we have the other equation that we didn't change. And now we have what we want. Notice that after making that change, I now have a plus 3q and a minus 3q, and when I add these together, that will be eliminated, and now we have 11p equals 11. So divide by 11, and we get p equals 1. All right. So we found part of it. So now let's substitute that back into one of these equations. I'll just pick the first one. So 3, and then we have times p, which is 1, plus q equals 7. So 3 plus q equals 7. Subtract 3 from both sides. And we have that q equals 4. So that means our answer here is 1, 4. Let's just double check it to make sure we got the right answer. We'll put this equation into the other equation to make sure it still works. 2 times p, 2 times 1, minus 3 times 4. That's 2 minus 12, or negative 10, which is here. So we know we do have the right answer. The solution to that equation is p is 1 and q is 4. The next one, we do notice as we look at these, I do have a plus and a minus here. So this might be a good place to start. But notice I can't just multiply one equation by a numbering and get the resolution I want. That would be a mama bear problem. In this case, I'm going to have to multiply both equations. So we call that a papa bear equation because I got to multiply 2. So I got a 3 and a 2, so if I multiply the top one by 2, that will get me minus 6. If I multiply the bottom one by 3, that will get me plus 6, and they'll be eliminated. So let's do that. 2 times 3x is 6x. 2 times minus 3y is minus 6y equals, and don't forget to multiply by that as well, is 2 times 1. And then we multiply here as well, and we get 2 times 8 is 16x. Excuse me, made a mistake there. 3 times 28 is 24x. 3 times 2 is plus 6y equals 6. And now you'll notice we do have what we wanted here, the plus and minus 6y, that will eliminate when we add them together. So as we add these together, 24 and 6 is 30x equals 6 and 2 is 8. So we're going to divide by 30. And we get x equals 8 over 30. Or I could say x equals, I can take a 2 out of both of those, is 4/15. Okay? Not a nice number, but we'll work with it. So now let's come up here and substitute it into the first equation. So if x is 4/15, we have 3 times 4 over 15 minus 3y equals 1. So this is 12/15 minus 3y equals 1. Or I can divide a 3 out of each of those, and this is 4/5 minus 3y equals 1. So let's subtract 4/5 from both sides. I have minus 3y equals 1 whole, which notice this is just 5/5. 5/5 minus 4/5 is 1/5. Okay? So now we're going to divide by minus 3. And we end up with y equals negative 1/15. If you're not sure how I did this, 1/5 divided by minus 3, that could be written as 1/5 divided by minus 3 over 1. And if you remember how to divide fractions, you change the dividing by a fraction to multiplying by the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, and then multiply the top is 1, multiply the bottom is negative 15, or negative 1/15. All right? So our answer here is 4 over 15 x, and our y is negative 1 over 15. All right? Now if you want to check that out, we go to the second equation. Do it up here. So 8 times 4 over 15 plus 2 times minus 1 over 15. Let's see what that adds up to. So 8 times 4, this is 32/15, and this is going to be minus 2/15. So that is 30/15, which is 2, as you see here. So we know that this is our correct answer. Problem 4 is a vocabulary question. It says if you add two equations in two variables, and then when you add them, the sum is an equation of one variable, what method did you use? Well, obviously the answer is this is the elimination method. And why is that true? Because that's the object of elimination. The object is to add two equations in such a way that one of the variables is eliminated. When that occurs, then you can solve for one variable and then plug back in and solve for the other. So you usually do that. Sometimes you can do it simply in a baby bear problem, but usually you have to multiply one or the other equation by one number to get what you need to add or subtract them together. Sometimes it's harder and you have to multiply them both in a Papa Bear equation. Reasoning. Explain how the addition property of equality allows you to add equations. Now remember, the addition property of equality says that if I have two numbers, A equals B, and I add C to both sides, that they're still equal. In other words, if I add equals 2 equals, the result is equal. Okay? So in other words, if I have an equation like, and I say 2x plus 3y equals 8, this is equal, equal. And if I have another equation that says 6x minus 3y equals 16, this is equal equals equal. This is like this. This is like the A equals B. This is like the C equals C up here. I'm adding equals to it. So when I add them, it just happens that I set it up so that would be eliminated. You see, these two then are equal. If you add equals to equals, the result is equals. That is the application of the addition property of equality. Explain how you would solve a system of equations using elimination. First step, I would find a variable I want to eliminate. Point here, it could be x or y, doesn't matter. Usually you're looking for something where either one is positive, one's negative, and you're trying to get it so that the coefficients are opposites, like plus 3x minus 3x. Now sometimes that's all it takes. But then what you need to do is you need to multiply either one of the equations or two if necessary, so that one variable has opposite coefficients. Okay? So like in the example we have done before, something like this, I'll just make up a problem. If I have 2x minus y equals 5 and I have 3x plus 2y equals 7, I look here and I'm going to pick, I could pick either one of these, but I'm going to pick this one because notice I have a plus and a minus, and all I have to do to get this to be, the top one to be 2, is multiply the top by 2. Then when I do, you see this becomes 4x minus 2y equals 10, and now these two can be eliminated, and that's what you're after. Then the third step, add before we do that. Add the equations so that one variable is eliminated. So you'll end up, and then 4, solve for the remaining variable. If you eliminated y, then you'll end up with x equals some number. If you eliminate x, you'll end up with y. Now 5, substitute the solution you got back into one of the equations, and solve for the other equation. So like in our example here, when we add these together, you see we end up with 7x equals, looks like 17. And we could then solve for x, and then once we found for x, we could put x would be, which that would be x equals 17 over 7, not a nice number. But then we could put this back into one of these equations and then solve for y. All right, hope you had an easy time with your homework.